Welcome to The Explainer, where we love to break down big ideas.
It's one of the biggest questions out there, isn't it? Today, we're going to try and tackle it by looking at two totally different but super influential theories about what makes up our personality. All right, first up, let's take a trip into the, let's say, fascinating and sometimes controversial world of Sigmund Freud. We're going to go deep into this idea of the hidden mind.
So here he is, Sigmund Freud. Now look, whether you're a fan of his theories or not, you just can't deny that his ideas completely changed the game for how we think about the human mind. He's known as the father of psychoanalysis, and for a good reason. He came up with this really wild idea that our personality isn't just what you see on the outside. Nope. He believed it's driven by a hidden, unconscious mind, which he broke down into three parts: the id, the ego, and the superego.
Let's put it this way. Freud was convinced that our unconscious mind, which gets all wired up by stuff that happened to us as kids, things we might not even remember, is still pulling the strings on how we act today.
He basically saw our mind as a non-stop battlefield, a constant tug of war between three different forces that are always at odds with each other.
So first, you've got the id. This is kind of like the impulsive, demanding toddler living inside all of us. It wants that second piece of cake. It wants to buy that thing right now. It just wants to feel good, period. It's all about that immediate pleasure.
And then, battling against the id is the superego. This is your inner critic. It's that little voice in your head that's absorbed all the rules, all the shoulds and should-nots from your parents and from society.
And finally, who's caught right in the middle of this epic tug-of-war? That would be the ego. The ego is the negotiator, the realist. Its job is to find a way to make the id happy without completely breaking all the superego's rules. The ego is the you that has to navigate the real world. Okay, so what happens when all that fighting inside our heads just creates way too much anxiety?
Well, when things get too intense, the ego whips out its secret weapons. Defense mechanisms. These are basically unconscious tricks it uses to protect us from feeling bad, and it usually does that by, twisting reality just a little bit.
So let's take projection. You ever felt really insecure, but instead of admitting it, you accuse someone else of being arrogant? That's you projecting your own feeling onto them. It just feels easier than dealing with it yourself, right?
Or how about displacement? Imagine your boss just ripped into you at work. You can't exactly yell back at them, so you go home and you snap at your friend for something totally minor. You've basically just moved that anger onto a safer, less threatening target.
But hang on, is that really the whole story? Are we just a big bundle of hidden conflicts that are all shaped by our past? Well, a totally different way of thinking came along that offered a much more optimistic take.
And that brings us to Carl Rogers. He came onto the scene with a completely different and way more hopeful view of what it means to be human.
Rogers was a key player in what's called humanistic psychology, and his work was really a direct response to what he saw as Freud's pessimism. Rogers believed we aren't prisoners of our past, but that we're actually the architects of our own future. At the very heart of his theory is the simple but really powerful idea that people are fundamentally good. And just like a plant, we are naturally wired to grow toward the sun. His entire approach was about how to unlock that potential.
So you see the difference? Where Freud was digging around in the tangled roots of our past, Rogers was looking forward to the sunny potential of our future. He was a huge believer in free will, this idea that we have the power to choose who we become.
Rogers had a special name for this natural drive we all have: self-actualization. It's like how a tiny seed holds the blueprint to become a massive tree. He believed we all have this internal push to fulfill our own unique potential, to become our best, most authentic selves.
But for a plant to grow, it needs the right conditions, right? Sunlight, water, good soil. Rogers said for us humans, the right condition is what he called unconditional positive regard. And really, all that means is being accepted and supported for who you are, flaws and all, with no strings attached.
So let's do this. Let's put these two really powerful ways of looking at ourselves side by side and just see how differently they explain who we are.
Seeing it like this really says it all, doesn't it? On one side, you've got Freud's view, our personality is determined by all these unconscious battles rooted way back in our childhood. And on the other side, you have Rogers' view. We can consciously shape who we are through our own free will as we grow into our future potential. And really, that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to think about for our own lives, right? Is your personality a script that was written for you a long time ago? Or is it a story that you are still writing, page by page? Maybe the real answer is somewhere in the middle. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.